Is it officially 7:30?
Yes, it is.
It is
Yeah,
officially
okay.
7:30.
Oh, all right. Well, I call to order the public hearing and regular city commission of February the 9th, 2021. May we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
I
pledge
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 allegiance
allegiance
I pledge
to
allegiance
the flag
to the flag
flag
of
of
the
the United
States
States of America and
and
to
to
the
the
republic
republic
for
for
which
which
it
for which
stands,
it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and
and
justice
and
for all.
justice for all. That was
All right.
better than usual.
Yeah.
We
Nah,
practiced.
yeah.
Amy, will you call the roll, please?
When you answer for the roll, make sure you list where you are
Yes.
at currently, not your address. You can just say the city and state. Commissioner Budnick,
here, Pleasant Ridge, Michigan.
Commissioner Perry,
Here, Pleasant Ridge, Michigan.
Commissioner Scott,
Here in Pleasant Ridge, Michigan.
Commissioner Wall,
Here in Pleasant Ridge, Michigan.
Mayor Metzger.
Here in Pleasant Ridge, Michigan. We're all here and we're all in
How
Pleasant Ridge, Michigan. All right, the next item on the agenda is public discussion items not on the agenda. Is there anything anyone has to bring forward? Calling once, calling twice. Okay.
I think Jamie has her hand up there, Mr.
Oh.
Mayor.
Oh,
Sorry, I couldn't figure out how to get my hand up virtually, even though I've done it a
That's
million
okay.
times.
Jim's supposed to tell me these things.
All right.
Yeah.
Good
Hi, Jamie.
evening. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. I just wanted to update you about the court. We are still doing everything virtually. We are not planning on fully reopening until everyone is vaccinated. We are kind of the model, I've heard from the Supreme Court Administrator's Office, for doing things safely. We are pretty up to date with our dockets. It's the criminal felonies, I think, that are being backlogged the most, but we've managed a way to work out a good Zoom schedule. So we are moving along as well as we can with our dockets. Does anybody have any questions about the court or anything that's happening right now? I know it's been just a tough time for everyone. No? All right. Well,
Anybody? Well,
exciting news. We are going to be doing a marijuana expungement program. The law is going to be changing
Great.
in March. So we're working on identifying people who have been through our court who will be eligible to have their records wiped clean. So that's
Excellent.
kind of the only big news here, but thank you for letting me address you tonight. It's really good to see you.
thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.
And
Bye, Jamie.
Thanks,
anyone
Jamie.
else? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the sign ordinance amendment. Let me just read. We will be opening with a public hearing. Solicitation of public comments on an ordinance to amend Pleasant Ridge City Code, Chapter 54, Article I, temporary and non-conforming signs, Section 54-2, definition, Section 54-7B6, election signs, Section 54-7B8, sandwich board signs, Section 54-7B9, street banner signs, and to amend the Pleasant Ridge Zoning Code Ordinance, Chapter 82, to remove the provisions dealing with temporary signs and to revise sections of Chapter 82 accordingly. And before we open the public hearing, I'm hoping to hear a little bit from Greg Need, little background on how we got here and what we are trying to accomplish.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commission. Why we're here, a few years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court held unconstitutional a sign ordinance in Gilbert, Arizona that regulated signs based on the content of the sign in part. Virtually all sign ordinances nationwide, including Pleasant Ridge's current ordinance, have some content basis in them, and those old ordinances are all unconstitutional per this Supreme Court decision. We have special rules for political signs, real estate signs, community event signs, and others. Supreme Court says we can't do that, so we need to make changes. The courts have held, though, that regulating the time, place, and manner of sign displays is generally constitutional. The proposed ordinance that you're considering tonight addresses the content issue. It's content neutral. It does not regulate based upon what's in the actual face of the sign. And it's consistent with what at least 6 Supreme Court justices have either held or implied is acceptable regulation. The Supreme Court case is not all that old, so there's not been a ton of follow-up litigation, but there's one case I think that's worth mentioning. The city of Chavano Park, Texas, enacted a sign ordinance after the Supreme Court decision that allowed one temporary sign for a period of 60 days and a banner sign that could be displayed 1 week out of the year. In late 2019, a federal district judge upheld the ordinance, finding that the city's interest in aesthetics and in reducing visual clutter was compelling. And I want to briefly quote from that case. I don't want to take too long, but I think this is important. The judge says, a government's interest in aesthetics is compelling where the government asserting that interest has a focus based on aesthetics, such as the case here. Chavano Park is a small city with a population of around 3,000. The city puts a central focus on its appearance, beauty, and charm. That really describes Pleasant Ridge as well as Chavano Park, Texas. This case is not binding precedent, it's from Texas, but it is a federal case and it does show how judges view these kinds of ordinances. And again, this was one sign for 60 days and then a banner 1 week a year. I know there have been a few comments made that this ordinance is unconstitutional. Well, beyond some general comments, no one has shown any case law that held that an ordinance like we are considering tonight is unconstitutional. Some comments were made that the ordinance was too restrictive. Well, the latest draft increases the number of allowed temporary signs from 1 to 3 and for a period of up to a year. People ask, well, there's no problem. Why are we doing this? Well, my response to that is visual clutter is something that communities can and do regulate within limits. Now, whether they do it and how they do that, that's a policy issue, and ultimately that's up to the commission, you folks, to decide. But certainly there is an interest that a lot of communities believe is worth protecting. So with that, if the commissioners have any questions, I'd be happy to address them. Otherwise, I'll return it to you, Mayor.
Thank you, Greg. Are there any questions for Greg?
I have one quick question. You were saying that we're doing it just for the aesthetic reason. We need to create this ordinance, right? Because of the changes in the Supreme Court?
Yeah, our current ordinance is clearly unconstitutional. We couldn't defend it. We need to do something.
Okay.
Now, what we do exactly, again, that's up to you folks. And aesthetics is only one of the interests that this ordinance addresses as well. I mean, we also have traffic safety to make sure signs don't interfere with traffic visibility and things like that. But, aesthetics is clearly one item that people question. Well, can you regulate on the basis of aesthetics? And of course, they said, yes, you can. That is one of those interests that you can enact an ordinance to address.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions before we open up the public hearing?
Mayor,
Yes,
if I could just add a couple thoughts.
sure.
Just to I guess, build upon a couple of the things that Attorney Need had pointed out. When we were putting the ordinance together, a couple things. I guess the first is the 1 year period for the signs. And I know there's been some discussion about that. That's one of those provisions that, like decibel limits we have for our sound nuisance ordinance, there's some ordinances we have that we don't go out and proactively enforce. We don't go out and measure what the sound is at everyone's property line every day because we have a sound decibel level limit at property lines in the city. We use those ordinance standards when we have an issue that we need to address. So the 1 year limitation, it falls more along the lines of something that we would not proactively enforce, but that we could use if there was an instance in the future where we needed that. The other part of that is this is a temporary sign ordinance. And so having some nominal time limit in the ordinance helps to keep within the spirit, I guess, of having a temporary sign ordinance. But really, it's the 1 year limit is not something that we're going to be monitoring or tracking for everybody's thank you healthcare workers sign. We're just not interested in doing that. We don't have the capability to do that. That's something that we may use if necessary in the future. When it comes to the number of signs permitted, we sort of looked around town. Now is a good time because we're out of an election season, and what number of signs residents generally have up on their lawns. And the vast majority of residents have 1 or 2 signs. There's a moderately small number of people who have 3 signs, and then just a handful of people who have more than 3 signs currently. So that was one way that we were benchmarking what a reasonable number would be to strike a balance between, kind of what people are doing now and what we would want to, where we would want to draw the line on the aesthetic purposes, really, for making sure we maintain the aesthetic of the town. So that's how we got to that 3 number. It's just kind of some quick benchmarking based on driving around and seeing what people are already doing. So with that, I just wanted to highlight those couple points and turn it back over to you.
Great, thanks. That helps a great deal as well. Okay, well, is there anything else? One more call for the commission? Okay, well, then I'm going to officially open the public hearing, and please, if you're going to speak, come give us your name and address first, and then give us your comments. And Jim, I think you'll call on those with their hands up.
Yes. First, I see V60 Think 5G UW raising his hand.
Yeah, my parents cursed me with that name. This is Jay Ahmed. I'm at 92 Kensington. I saw this for the first time yesterday and just had a few questions that are really clarification questions. So I would note parenthetically that I read the Reed decision, and Justice Alito's concurrence in the decision says that, at least in my reading of it, that even content neutral ordinances don't get a free pass. And he gave some examples of what the state would have an interest in. And I don't believe in his concurring opinion that he listed time as a legitimate interest. He mentioned things like size and things like that. And it made me wonder, is this an ordinance that's a solution in search of a problem? If we're operating under an old ordinance, which was a bit more restrictive, I guess I'm not aware of a bunch of issues with regard to signs. And now are we, again, creating a solution that's just looking for a problem, number one. Number two, and this is really why I got on tonight, is does the 1-year rule mean that I could literally have my yard sign, and I think I have 3 of them, that I could remove it for a day and immediately put that exact same sign up the next day and have another year to have that sign, in which case I just take it down and put it back up again? Because if that's the case, what is the ordinance accomplishing?
Jim, do you want that?
Sure. Basically, yes, you could do that. The 1-year time limit, I would really encourage everyone to really not focus on that. That's maybe one of the smallest parts of this ordinance. And if we wanted to get rid of that just because it seems to be causing some stress, I don't know, it really wouldn't change much. So I would encourage everyone to just put that out of mind. Let's not talk about the 1-year time limit. That's something I think the commission can talk about if you guys want to keep or not, but I'd rather not spend time talking about that tonight, because it really is the smallest, one of the more inconsequential parts of the ordinance.
Good.
Right, but it's still part of the ordinance. And
Yeah, so yeah, you could take the sign down and put it back up the next day. You could.
so why is that it's just puzzling to me that why would you have a 1-year time limit when anyone can take their sign down for, I guess, a day, or I don't even know. Can I take it down for 5 minutes and put it back up again? I mean, the ordinance isn't clear to me in that regard. And if by some crazy happenstance, someone said, hey, Jay, you've had your sign up for a year, could I literally just remove it for a period of time and put it back up?
As I just answered, yes.
But you didn't answer. So could I take it down for 5 minutes, Jim, and literally put it back up again?
I don't know. I mean,
Really?
I'm not really interested in having this discussion.
Well, you may not be interested, but it's part of the ordinance. And tonight is the night in which you're asking for public comment.
Understood. We heard the comment about the time period.
You saying I'm not really interested in discussing this is not productive. It's part of the ordinance. I mean, I'm sorry you don't want to discuss it.
But I believe he's saying that it's not being, we're not checking on you. We're not going to report you.
Yeah.
Would
You may
you
not-
like it just out completely and no limits?
Yeah, if the practical effect is that I can take my sign down and put it right back up, why is there a time limit in the ordinance? It makes no sense. If someone can explain it to me, then, I'll happily say, okay, that makes sense. But a year time limit saying, but if you take it down for 30 seconds and put it back up and you're good for another year, you're not making anybody happy. Now you're making the people unhappy who think that this is an eyesore. And now, because the signs are going to be put right back up, and they're still going to have whoever these people are, these mythical people in Pleasant Ridge who are upset by the aesthetic of signs being up in people's yards. The signs aren't going to go away, so you haven't made them happy, and you're not making the people happy who have yard signs, because now they got to go out and take it down and then put it back up, which seems sort of silly to me. And so, I mean, you can scoff and shake your head all you want, but if it's such a silly, inconsequential provision, why is it in the ordinance?
Mayor, if I may, just for a second.
Sure.
Yeah, I think this is why we have public hearings. So what we'd really like to hear is what people would like to see, in addition to what they might find odd about the way the ordinance was written. From my perspective, whenever we would use the word temporary, there needs to be something to define what the word temporary means. And that could be a lot of things that could describe what temporary means. It could be size, it could be time, it could be anything. And the fact that 1 year was chosen was one way. So I'm very curious if there's another way that you'd like described it all.
I don't think that it's useful to have a time limit, Brett, unless you're going to say in the ordinance, and I'm not making this public policy decision or argument now. I have my own opinions about it. My own opinion is that you shouldn't, the state doesn't, the argument isn't that I'm making isn't, can the state do this? I'll concede under the Reed decision, you probably can. The question is, should you? And just an arbitrary time period where people take it down and put it right back up seems, again, it has then no effect. If, as Mr. Neat says, that one of the interests is the aesthetic, then you're not doing anything to improve the aesthetic of Pleasant Ridge by saying, okay, Mr. Yard Sign owner, take your sign down for 5 minutes and then right back up. That's an inconvenience and annoyance with no practical effect on the aesthetic. And we can all sit here and argue about what is an appropriate aesthetic. I mean, what you think is a proper aesthetic or what is beautiful, I may think is not. I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And I personally think that it's interesting to walk around the neighborhoods and see people's expressions, whether it's putting their kids' drawings up on their windows or Black Lives Matter or say their names or whatever it is, or love, not hate, whatever it is. I personally think that's an important part of people's ability to use their expression to put it, if they want, in their yard. And you may put up something that I don't agree with. I don't care. I'm happy that you have the ability to express themselves. or express yourself. But to just pick a number, I mean, you might as well take a number off the back of my watch and say, after this many days, you got to take it down. Now, if the ordinance were to say, and you can't put that sign back up, you have to wait another year to put signs or different signs back up, then at least it would make sense from a logical argument to say, now we're cleaning up, so to speak. That's not my word, because I don't view it as harming the aesthetic, but at least then you're accomplishing your objective. But here, saying you can have it up for a year and then take it down for 5 minutes, you're not accomplishing your objective.
Okay, so
All right.
if I
thank you.
may, really, what I'm hoping is that I captured what it is that you want to see happen. So I think I've understood your viewpoint,
Yes,
just so that I know what we might do to the ordinance.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I would not be in favor of having a time limit.
Well,
For,
Okay.
part of what, when we reviewed this in Planning Commission, part of what we discussed is this covers temporary signs as opposed to a separate ordinance that covers permanent signs. So by definition, a temporary sign has to have some time limit. But nobody was interested in impinging upon people's rights to express their opinions. Nobody was interested in creating a whole bunch of rigmarole, and so it is in fact arbitrary. But to have a temporary sign ordinance, there has to be some period that the sign can be left up.
I don't think there's anything.
Otherwise, it's a permanent sign, and it's a different ordinance. So I don't know what the answer is. It feels to me like what's proposed gets to what everybody wants to see, which is people able to express their opinions within, a reasonable aesthetic boundary. And I'm not quite sure why it is a weird little quirk, but laws and regulations always have weird little quirks in them because that's how they work. I don't know. That's what we discussed in Planning Commission.
Thanks, Tom. Tom, would you mind just giving us your name and address?
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom
Yes, sir.
Wilson, in Pleasant Ridge, and I'm on the Planning Commission, which did the initial review of the ordinance.
Could I ask one more question?
Okay, one more.
And that is that I know there's a 3 sign limit. So my signs are not campaign or political signs, but we did have up for a period of time some political campaign signs in our yard, which put us, or would have put us, over the 3 sign limit. Are the campaigns under
That's it's a separate, yeah, there is a separate. So if you look at the ordinance.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for.
Next.
Next up, we have Alex Lenko.
Hi, everyone. I'll keep it brief. Alex Lenko, 16 Millington. Thank you, everyone, for your time and attention tonight. City Commission, city staff. Thanks, Jim and Amy, pulling everything together, and also the Junior Commission as well. I served on the Junior Commissions. I grew up in Pleasant Ridge. It's the 5th house that I've lived in. I can say part of the charm of the community is our outspokenness and the diverse tapestry that makes this place. And I'm concerned by the quieting effect and the focus on the clutter. So I totally understand the need to update like the vast majority of it, as Mr. Need pointed out. Some of it does need to be updated, but the time bound. So I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I guess my question to him specifically is, does something that is classified as temporary or a sign specifically, does that need to be bounded by a time constraint? And can we make it like 50 years or 12? Like, does it need a line in the sand, or does, as Mr. Wilkinson pointed out, it's the 1 year was arbitrary. So that's all I got. I'll take the response offline. Thank you. Sorry, the question was to Mr. Need.
Yeah. Greg, was there anything else to add on the?
Yeah, I can respond, Mayor. I'm sorry. The ordinance defines temporary in a couple of facets. One is time, one is a permanence of construction. I don't think it's probably not 100% necessary that we have a time limit in there, and I agree with Mr. Wilkinson. 1 year may seem arbitrary, but the idea is to address both. And I also agree with the city manager. I mean, this is one small part of the ordinance that, in my view, is getting an inordinate amount of discussion. But I mean, I guess I understand it. But to answer Mr. Linko's question, yeah, I think it's defined by both type of construction as reflecting the permanence of the sign, and it could be duration as well.
And
Does
could
it
that be
absolutely
taken
have
out?
to be duration? Probably, perhaps not.
Could the ordinance have the intended effect if the time constraint were taken out?
Well, the idea was to regulate temporary signs in this ordinance and permanent signs in the zoning ordinance. And the thought was that some kind of duration helps define what temporary means.
And, yeah. Thank you. Okay. Next.
Next up, we have Jason Krzyjak.
Hello, and my name is Jason Krzyjak. I live at 55 Wellesley. I want to thank Greg for the effort that he's put into constructing this ordinance. I want to thank the Planning Commission for working on it, City Commission and staff. I'd like to say a few things and then respond to a few things, if I may. So thank you for the time. The case that the city has cited, Reed versus Gilbert, which was from 2015, struck down content-based sign restrictions on private property. It was a decision expanding and affirming our free speech protections, which in my mind is the exact opposite direction of where this proposed ordinance is headed. Until now, we didn't have restricted language on temporary signs. Now we do, or now we may. So the ordinance as written is, to me, is limiting free speech that we had before the ordinance. And to me, as a resident, that's problematic. During the portion when it talks about political signs in our ordinance, it says that during the political season, there is a need for additional expressions of speech. And to me, that really gets to my objections here, is that the government, whether it's the federal government or our local government, should not be the one deciding when there is a need for additional expressions of speech. That is the heart of the First Amendment protections, in my belief, is that we, the people, get to decide when there's additional expressions of speech which are needed. So really, that gets to my primary objection to the ordinance as proposed. My concern is that this restricts our free speech here in Pleasant Ridge. The support for free speech in Pleasant Ridge has been strong for as long as I have lived here, and I haven't seen an issue with clutter or an overabundance of signs. I believe that our support as a community for free speech should continue unencumbered by durational limits or number of signs. So my hope is that the restrictions on number and duration, and also the materials, and maybe we can talk about that later, or Jim, maybe you could talk about that later, will be struck from the proposed ordinance before the commission tonight. I'd like to speak particularly, and I really appreciate Greg doing the work on this as far as citing precedents for this. I know the Reed case was 2015, and I appreciate Greg filling in that kind of that timeline in the last 6 years, because I do think it's interesting on this question in particular, where the Supreme Court is going to go. I wasn't aware of the decision in Texas, or the judge's ruling in Texas. Now, granted, this didn't get to the Supreme Court. It wasn't obviously appealed to that level, but I want to reiterate, this is a city in Texas, okay? This is a judge in Texas, okay? Pleasant Ridge, my belief is generally speaking, not on the same understanding as far as constitutional rights as a city in Texas is. So I would be more interested in crafting an ordinance that represents Pleasant Ridge and not Shavano Park, Texas. I understand Greg's citation there, but I also know that the ACLU of Massachusetts, with some rulings in the Commonwealth there, do believe that limits on duration, in particular in relation to political signs, are unconstitutional. So it is a question in flux right now. It hasn't been decided at the Supreme Court level, but the last few cases that were particularly about temporary lawn signs, I believe, and the ACLU also has written that they believe that limitations on duration and I believe limitations on number are unconstitutional. So I would just encourage us, yes, a city in Texas may have something similar, but this is Pleasant Ridge, and I would really expect that our ordinances reflect the culture in Pleasant Ridge. Now, I did want to talk about the temporary definition. I do believe that not anchored or permanence of construction is an all right way to describe a temporary sign without having the timeline element there. And then I did want to touch on Ann's point because I think it is vital. And I think it really gets to, as a citizen, the heart of why are we doing this? The Reed decision, in my mind, does not demand that we craft a restrictive ordinance in this way. That's not what Reed does. So because Reed happened does not mean that we have to pass this ordinance as written with restrictions on time, number, and materials. So that's something I just discuss is this is a choice that the city of Pleasant Ridge is making. This is not something that was fostered on us by the Supreme Court. We do not have to put limitations on time, duration, materials, or number. I think that needs to be expressed. We do not need to do this. And then finally, and I'll be done after this, we moved into this community in 2001. And the same month we moved into Pleasant Ridge, the United States Army moved into Afghanistan. So I put this sign right here on my lawn. And we hadn't been in the city for a month. And I put this sign on my lawn. And the city at that time had no limitations on how long this sign could be in my yard, which is a really good thing because the war that started before my 19-year-old son was born is still going on. So there's a value in not having durational limits when the issues do not have durational limits. I also put this sign in my yard, and this was in support of our police department and our fire department. And we handmade this sign, and I put this in my front yard. And I'm glad at the time the city didn't have a law against materials because this sign was obviously directed towards the city government at the time. And to their credit, nobody showed up, nobody knocked on my door, and nobody told me to remove this sign. That's the city culture that, I appreciate, that citizens can do that. And then finally, just this year, and I mentioned this sign because I have to clear up something, okay? Christina, who designed this sign and made these signs and raised an awful lot of awareness and money, is not my child. I've had to explain this a few times. Her family and my family are not related as far as we know. So I know there's a lot of confusion out there. That doesn't exclude my pride and the efforts that she put into developing this sign. But we put this sign in our yard in a city that had no limits on the number of signs, which was fortunate because I already had some signs in my yard. So our city has had a culture of free speech and expression that I have come to cherish and value. And honestly, a city in Texas should not be writing our ordinance, and we should not be crafting language reflective of the people in Texas. We should be crafting language that's representative of the people in Pleasant Ridge. And frankly, I feel like this ordinance, with restrictions on time, with restrictions on number, and with restrictions on materials, does not reflect our values here. And that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Jason.
Mayor, can I briefly respond?
Sure.
It is not true that we do not have an ordinance that regulates it right now. Your political signs must come down 7 days after the election. That is there. There are other restrictions in the ordinance right now. To say that we have nothing is not factually correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I just respond?
Thanks for the clarification.
Yeah.
Yes, briefly.
Can I just respond that nobody from the city ever came to my house and knocked on my door and told me to take down my signs because they were up too long or that there were too many of them. And I just feel like this is an unnecessary and it frankly it's an overreach. And I hope that those provisions are struck from the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next. Jim, is there someone else?
Nobody else.
Nobody else? Okay. With that, I will close the public hearing. Now, before we...
I'm sorry, Mayor,
Yeah.
one item if I may. I'm a little confused on the maintenance or the materials objection.
Oh, okay.
The only thing that the current ordinance says is that temporary signs shall be constructed of durable, all-weather materials and designed to remain in place and in good repair so long as they remain on display. So
Seems...
I'm not sure what the objection is there that Jason has. I didn't really see anything in any of the signs he held up that would violate that. So I just wanted, since that was a point that was brought up, that is what the current ordinance, proposed ordinance rather, says.
Jason, did you want to respond?
Oh, no, I appreciate that clarification for sure, because, yeah, that's one of my concerns is that if a resident wants to make a homemade sign and put it on their front lawn, is there going to be, you know, a violation or,
No.
Okay,
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else before I officially close? Okay. Okay. Close the public hearing. Before I ask for a motion, is there any discussion from the commission?
Yes, Mayor, if I may.
Sure.
To Greg. So if I look at 54.7B, if we struck the portion of the sentence for a period not to exceed 1 year, just simply end the sentence at up to 3 temporary signs, does that match, and maybe this is to Jim as well, does that match your, would you agree to that in order to eliminate the time period?
Yeah, like I said, that, you know, that it really has no functional impact. You could have the same 3 signs, take it down for an hour, put them back up. Jason could have his no war sign for 19 straight years. You know, there is a way around this. So no, I don't think that City Attorney Need or myself have any issue if we took that out.
Okay, and then Jim, one last one, 54.7B6, if we change the word under elections to say in recognition that there are typically additional temporary signs displayed prior to election, rather than to say that there is additional expression of speech. Would you be okay with that?
I don't know. This is probably, in my view, one of the trickiest parts of the ordinance that we have. This is, in my view, probably the biggest, one of the biggest things that we could be challenged on. I'm not at all concerned about limiting the number of signs in terms of a constitutional challenge, but allowing additional signs in some time period around an election, I believe could be an issue. I'd want to have Greg very carefully consider any wording changes to that section.
Okay.
Could you read again your suggestion? I'm not sure I followed it.
Oh, sorry. So at the moment it says, in recognition that there is a need for additional expression of speech, I am proposing that we say, in recognition that there are typically additional temporary signs displayed, to take out the notion that we are making this decision based on expression of speech.
Well, I think, as Jim pointed out, the purpose of that language is to make sure that we are expanding people's constitutional rights around an election season.
Got it.
And
So it actually
and I
works in
think
reverse to do
It
that.
does that, yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brett. Are there any other questions? Okay,
I had just some quick questions about, and I don't even know exactly what my questions are, but regarding how does this impact the business district and everything like that? Are these rules the same impact for our DDA or any businesses in Pleasant Ridge?
The answer to that is yes. The standards are each lot. So that's any lot or parcel of land in the city, no matter what its use zoning district.
Okay. Thank you.
okay. With the adjustment of removing the 1-year time period, which I believe we've agreed to, is there a motion to approve the ordinance amendments?
Mayor, I move that the ordinance to amend Pleasant Ridge City Code, Chapter 54, Article 1, Temporary and Nonconforming Signs, Section 54.2, 54.2, Definitions, Section 54-7B6, Election Signs, Section 54-7B8, Sandwich Board Signs, Section 54-7B9, Street Banner Signs, and to amend the Pleasant Ridge Zoning Ordinance, Chapter 82, to remove the provisions dealing with the temporary signs and to revise sections of Chapter 82 according to approval, with the revision of removing the time limitation in 54, whatever. Sorry.
54-7B.
47B.
54-7B.
And you would be removing the words, quote, for a period not to exceed 1 year.
Right, right. Okay. Is there support?
Support.
Any further discussion? Okay, may we take a vote, please, Amy?
Commissioner Perry,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Budnick,
Yes.
Commissioner Wall,
Yes.
Mayor Metzger.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. The next item is the introduction of Police Officer Mark Kielszewski. Another pleasurable time on our agenda. Do we have the chief
We do.
or
We
Ron?
do. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. As everybody knows, we had a couple of vacancies occur at the police department here in the last several months due to some retirements and one of our officers moving on to a different department for what he thought was a better opportunity. So it created 2 vacancies. We filled one of those. You met Jean-Pierre Cormier, one of the officers at the last meeting, who just left, as a matter of fact, doing a fine job. And one of the other applicants, we had many qualified applicants that applied here, more so than we've had in the past. And Officer Mark Kielszewski was one of those applicants that we chose to move forward through the process and eventually hired. So having said that, I'll give a little bit of background. Mark grew up in Sterling Heights, and he attended Sterling Heights High School, where he graduated in 2004. He has an associate's degree in criminal justice law enforcement from Macomb Community College. He's got a bachelor's degree from Oakland University in interdisciplinary studies. He was hired as a cadet in Farmington Hills, where eventually they sent him to the Oakland Police Academy, where he graduated in 2008 and then began working as a police officer in Farmington Hills. He worked there for a little over 7 years, where he was chosen to be a member of their honor guard, which is quite a privilege, especially in a department the size of Farmington Hills with well over 100 officers. Evidence tech school, field training officer. They don't choose people to train new people that can't hold their own or aren't a fine example of what they want to represent at the department. And then eventually assigned to a specialized unit, which was directed patrol, which handled a lot of high crime instances and areas. While working at Farmington Hills Police Department, Mark was recognized and received 12 accommodations and citations. That's a lot in a little over 7.5 years. He, for exceptional performance of his duties in a variety of cases, which included drug cases, thefts, larcenies, robberies, carjackings, domestic hostage incident, and even a homicide that he was involved in, helped investigating. He lives up the road here in Royal Oak, where he's been a resident for 10 years. He brings some youth, much needed youth, as being 33 years old, to our department. I've had the opportunity to work with him the last 2 weeks closely out on road patrol and stuff, and I believe that he will fit in nicely here and have an outstanding career. With that, I'll introduce him. He's going to come into here because he's having a little bit of problem with his phone speaker on the Zoom, so he's going to come take my place right here. Don't get too comfortable in this chair, though.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thanks for having me here. Very humbled by all the kind words the chief said. He might have talked it up a little much, but I appreciate that. I really wasn't sure what I was getting myself into when I first applied, but even from the initial interview, I felt here leaving very comfortable and welcomed. And then from meeting the chief and some of the guys here, there was just something about the vibe and the family feel that really made me feel like I felt in, and that was a very good feeling. So in the last couple of weeks, I've never waved to so many citizens or talked to people I expected. So I think that's the good thing about working in a city like this. You really get to know the people and the citizens and build a good relationship with everybody. With that being said, I'd like to thank everybody, city manager, assistant city manager, mayor, a couple of you I've met, all the city commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I look forward to meeting with you. And I'm just very grateful and appreciate and very humbled to be here. So I appreciate it.
Nice to meet you. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yes, welcome. You do realize your first test is to name at least 30 dogs.
I realized that today. I must have passed 100 people walking dogs. So.
As long as they had them on leashes, that's all.
Haven't noticed any yet. Without
good to hear.
So.
Well, welcome. We're glad you're here.
We're excited to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here, and I look forward to meeting y'all.
Great.
Someday.
Yeah, right. We'll see.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
Yes,
thank
thanks.
you. All right, you guys take care. Thank you.
Chief, I just wanted to say, I know some time ago we were talking about how difficult it was to recruit. And I think it says a lot about you and Rob and the team that you've put together, that you've come up with 2 tremendous additions. And I really congratulate you for that. I think it's been a testament to your work, Rob's work, and the Pleasant Ridge Police Force.
Well, thank you for those kind words, Mayor. And it has been mine and Sergeant Reed. Sergeant Reed has been here his whole career. I'm just a transplant from 06 from another place where I retired. So he's invested a lot more here than I have. But we've shared a common goal to make this place better than it was when we got here. I hope we're continuing to do that. These 2 officers that we hired here, we went through some that were here and were left and were fine people. It just wasn't the right fit maybe for here. We're not as busy or have the big opportunities with like bureaus like undercover and detective bureaus and SWAT teams and all those things. But what this place does attract are people that I think, officers that see this as a career, not a job, and they really truly care about the community and want to make it just the safest that it can be, like an old town, small town feel where people feel safe, that they can leave their doors unlocked. They can, walk around at any time of the night. It's still my third night here. I was surprised at how many women were walking in their robes with their dog and a coffee cup at 3 o'clock. It doesn't happen a lot in Wayne County where I came from. So, but it's unique, and thank you for the kind words. It's Sergeant Reed's and I goal to strive to make this place better every day. So thank you.
Well, please don't push those unlocked doors, okay?
I was just going to say,
Lock
Chief
your
Cummins,
doors.
for the record, you don't recommend
Yes.
that.
We still should lock our doors, especially our car doors. Thank you.
Yes.
Well, last night, Officer Nagy found a trunk and a car door open somewhere, so he just closed it and didn't say a word.
Well,
Can you pronounce Mark's last name for us?
Common spelling, Kilishevsky.
Kilshevsky, right?
All right. Very nice.
Kielewski. I know I've had to write it down about 1,000 times already. So
Thank you.
okay.
Okay, we're going to be moving into governmental reports. So, Chief, you want to kick us off?
I'm gonna, I see Chief Teresa Robinson
Oh, wonderful.
is here, and as a gentlemanly thing to do, and being new, I'm gonna defer to her if she would like. I had the pleasure to meet her last week, and I think with her experience and what she brings to the table, she'll be a fine addition to the Ferndale Fire Department in the city of Ferndale, which, as you know, provides fire and medical service to the city of Pleasant Ridge. So with that, I'll let her go first.
Terrific.
Well, good evening, everybody.
Welcome.
Happy
Congratulations.
to be here. I'm looking forward to when I get to actually see all of you guys in person. I'm in my second week at Ferndale Fire Department, and it's been amazing, the warm welcome I've received from everybody, including your community. The chief there did stop into our fire station, and so we did get a chance to meet, which is great. So I look forward to leading our fire department and continuing your guys' fire and EMS services, and have a great partnership and working relationship with all of you. If you need anything, call my office. I'd be happy to have individual Zoom meetings if you want to get to know me a little bit more, have some discussions. I'm very open to that. And like I said, I look forward to building a relationship and getting to know everybody.
You have great shoes to fill from both Kevin and then Joe. So we expect no less, right? Congratulations.
Thanks. And I don't know if you guys know anything about me, but I came from Lansing Fire Department. I worked over 24 years there.
Wow.
Came up through the ranks and was appointed assistant fire chief in 2019, and then decided to move up my retirement and accept this position with Ferndale Fire Department. So I've been in the fire service for a long time. I have a lot of different instructor credentials. I have a few degrees, all the way up through my doctorate, actually. So I believe in formal education, BASO experience, and I like to think that I bring all of that to the table and try to put it to good use down here in this community.
That's wonderful.
Awesome.
That's
Well,
great.
welcome.
Thank you.
We're excited to have you on board.
Yes.
And come and join our meetings anytime you can.
I'd be happy to. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Chief.
Yeah, had to unmute myself. So, okay, just a couple quick things. Just reporting that many of our officers, happy to report, have received their first round of COVID shots, including City Manager Brockman was instrumental in speeding that along. We were on a list through Oakland County, but then that was up and down and a little bit. We were having a hard time getting our officers scheduled to get that. But The city manager worked his magic, and we got emails and said, make an appointment. And most of us the past week have gone through our first round, and then we're all scheduled for the second round moving forward here. So happy to report that. So thank you to him for that. We've had a couple recent snowfalls, as everybody knows. We've noticed I've gotten many calls from residents that got stickers or placards on their car about their car being parked more than 48 hours and snowbound and covered with snow and things like that. And the reason for that, partly we would like as many cars off the street, so to facilitate the snow plowing and proper snow removal. It makes it easier on the snow crews, and then it also doesn't leave all that snow and ice. Obviously got brutally cold here for the thing, and then that snow and piles turn to ice piles, and then it seems to stay and linger forever, causing more grief on the roadway and stuff. So many cars were tagged, no tickets were written, no cars were towed away. We just want everybody to know that there's a parking ordinance. No car can be parked for more than 48 hours on the roadway without being moved. And that's to avoid any like junk car type issues or cars sitting a long time sitting parked without being moved. So, and when they're snow covered and it's a week later and they're still not moved and covered and surrounded by snow, we know that they've been there for more than 48 hours. So also remind people that residents do have a duty to remove snow within 48 hours, I believe, after an event. Many sidewalks weren't done. And as you heard, there's hundreds of people today. It was a beautiful day with the sun out, people walking and everything. And we want the sidewalks to be safe and not snowy or icy or whatever. So remind all the residents that if they need help with something, reach out to your neighbor or whoever. I've shoveled snow for people in the past. I'm not volunteering that. I'll help facilitate the removal of your snow if need be. But we'd like the sidewalks and everything to be as clear as possible for everybody so it's safe. So having said that, I think that is all I have. I don't know. I see Sergeant Reed on. I don't know if he has anything. Nod your head up and down or say whatever. But no, he doesn't have anything.
Doesn't have anything.
That is all that I
Thanks.
have for you today.
Anybody have any questions for the chief? All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other governmental reports? I don't see anybody. Okay. We'll move on to the City Commission liaison reports, and we'll start with Commissioner Wall and the Recreation Commission.
Hi. I am reading this and I'm encouraged. I think this is hopeful. All these things are summer activities, which we didn't have last year. So I think that we're moving in the right direction, right? Pull up a chair and listen. Summer employment opportunities. PR Rec has summer job opportunities for the following positions. Camp counselor, which indicates that there will be a camp. Camp runs, June 21st through August 5th, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. You must enjoy creating memories for kids. If you don't like kids, please don't apply. The kids are 7 to 15. Lifeguard swim instructor, hello, implying that the pool will be open. American Red Cross certified lifeguard, CPR, and first aid through 9/8/2021. The pool is open Memorial Day through Labor Day. Head lifeguard, American Red Cross certified lifeguard, CPR, first aid through 9/8/2021. Must be 18 years or older. Must have a minimum of 2 years guarding experience. All job positions will have training dates TBD. Submit your application online at www.cityofpleasantridge.org/recreation. The application deadline is April 12th. So that's very exciting. Virtual holiday craft activities, Valentine's Day craft, Thursday the 11th at 4 p.m. this week. And St. Patrick's Day craft, Wednesday, March 17th at 4 p.m. It's free. You just have to pre-register. Shawnee, I just want to ask you, I think that are we almost full for the Valentine's Day craft?
Yeah, I think there was like 3 left. So I think 18 or 19 people out of 22 are ready.
That's great.
Yeah.
So hop 2 if you want to do that. And so that's been going well, hasn't it? The gingerbread house one we had in December went really well.
Yeah, it was really fun. I think we had 19 or 20 people registered.
It's cute. Kids love it, right? It's it's just something to look forward to. Pictures with the Easter Bunny, Saturday, March 27th, 10 a.m. to 12, $7 per time slot. And there's only a few spots left for that already. So
yeah,
I could make the hop 2 joke again for the Easter Bunny.
You just did.
Love that.
I had to take it, right? Cabin Fever. Now, I have a question about this one. I thought this was intriguing. Sponsored by Oakland County. Free. Residents will learn to snowshoe. Shawnee, where is this happening?
Just back behind the community center.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I think that's so fun. So do you have to bring your own snowshoes on?
Oakland County brings it all. It's part of their RAP program, which they normally do it in the summertime, but Oakland County had some extra leftover funds where they didn't use their summer RAP program money. So they're doing a winter portion of it. So they bring their snowshoes out and they bring their staff. So we're going to have 4 half-hour programs of it. So it's limited to 20 people a half hour. Social distancing will be involved, face masks required, but we'll do it out back and they'll show you how to snowshoe and they'll bring all different sizes.
Cool. I think that's super fun. Yeah.
So it'll be fun.
So it's March 6th, 11 to 1, space is limited.
Yep.
Okay, snowman contest. Deadline to submit photos for judging is February 24th. Which incidentally, February 24th is our next recreation meeting.
Yep. And they'll vote then.
Yes.
The rec commission.
Pleasant Ridge's perfect pet contest. Since everybody has, I think that the pet situation has increased exponentially since the pandemic. So if you have a cute picture of your pet, email it your favorite pet photo. It can be with you. It can be without you. It has to be taken down. It has to be taken during the pandemic or shut down. Email it to Greg at GCALBECK@cityofpleasantridge.org. March 1st through the 11th, and the rec commission will vote for the winners. That's a cute situation. This is very exciting. We were just talking about this today. So we're going to have a community art show. It's going to be outside in Gainsborough Park. It's going to be Friday, June 25th, 5:30 to 8:30. And we were discussing, can I give them a little sneak preview? Can I tell them what we should? So we were talking about the owner or the winners potentially donating their artwork to the foundation to auction off. So I thought that was a really great idea. And we were talking about different mediums like sculpture, photography, painting, drawing, and getting some local artists to judge the competition. I just think it sounds like such a fun, really cool event outside, social distance, something to look forward to, something positive. So I think that's exciting. Virtual bingo. Join us for some virtual bingo. Pre-register by noon the Wednesday prior. Call for info 3rd Thursdays of the month at 6:30, February 18th and March 18th. Monthly movie series, Thursday the 18th at noon. You have to RSVP, limited to 12 people. Sound of Metal will be shown. Is it good? Alex is looking excited about it. I haven't seen it. Spring soccer registration. Look at all this positivity. Spring soccer registration begins Monday, February 15th. Leagues U6 through U12 are offered. Looking for players and coaches. Please let Shawnee or Greg know if you're interested. And that's it. Thank you.
You
Mayor?
have given us hope, Amanda. You have given us
Yay!
Mayor, I have a quick question.
Yeah.
For Amanda and Shawnee. So what do you guys know about the pool opening?
Do you want to talk about it, Shawnee?
So for sure the pool has to open to make sure everything's in good working order. After that, numbers and different things like that will all be based on state numbers that will be dictated down through the state and Department of Health.
Good. So there still may be some restrictions, but
I'm sure there will be.
But dictated by the government.
But by the government, yeah.
Okay.
So, but we'll have everything open. We're still waiting. We work with Aquatic Source. We're waiting for our opening day. We're still planning
Cool.
to have a swim team, which
Very exciting.
May. So we usually get our really early opening date in April. That way it's nice and heated for the kids to be able to start outdoor swim practice in May, because it's really cold. So yeah, but we did a lot of preventatives last summer and even before we closed at the end of 2019. So we think we're in really good working order for everything to open up in April.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
Yeah. So we think we should be in good physical shape.
Cool.
Excellent. Excellent.
Everything else will really just be dependent upon COVID. Yeah. But, so if you know anybody, high school students, 15 and older that would like to be a lifeguard, local kids.
Because we need some, aren't we?
Yes.
That's a little slow, right?
Traditionally, by this time, we've had usually a lot of applicants that have applied for lifeguard summer day camp positions. It's a little slower than we're used to. I don't know if that's just because usually I see these kids a lot and I've had lots of interaction with them. By this time, they've popped in, they're working for us. I see them at special events, different things like that. I don't see them. They're not at the rec center. They're not working. So I don't see them to kind of remind them, be engaged with them. I'm not on the forefront of their minds every day. So I just, even like Greg sends the emails, I send kind of the texts and stuff. So I just don't think we're just there yet. So hopefully when the spring, they see people working on the pool, those kind of things.
So spread the word, everybody.
So if you can spread the word, kids that you're used to seeing on the pool decks or your neighbors, once you see them out, getting in their cars to go to school, just remind them to, hey, don't forget to apply. But we have seen some parents working out, some kids that have come to work out and they're like, yeah, we know. So those are positive things. They know, they just haven't physically had the time. And, we have lots of great kids that work and they're like, oh, I want to ask the teacher or the pastor to, can I use them as a reference? Because we do have a reference on the job application. So they're taking the right steps to fill these applications out correctly, which we can appreciate too. So
good.
We're working on those steps. So
excellent.
Thanks, Shani.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Budnick, Ferndale Public Schools and perhaps library. Is that true?
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good evening, everybody. I don't know how I'm going to follow that. That was some much needed light at the end of the tunnel. So that's great. All good stuff. Regarding Ferndale schools, they are moving to a hybrid format starting in March. So you're going to have both virtual and in-person options available. It's a staggered approach. So there's going to be every couple weeks, they're going to add a little more on starting in March. And there's a lot more about the guidelines and protocols they're taking on the Ferndale Schools website. So they're moving forward as well. And a little bit from the students, they're still navigating this COVID thing. And I know they're having a tough time, but it's always encouraging to hear the student reps from the Ferndale schools and their optimism. And you just got to feel for them, but they're hanging in there. Ferndale's doing a heck of a job providing study assistance, passing out things that students might need to those in need, things like hats, backpacks, laptop cases, supplies, and they're doing everything they can to be of service and find ways to virtually help kids for the time being. So that is kind of what's going on. Sports are back, but a lot of things are being canceled. But they're kind of not. So we'll see how that goes. And then regarding, Huntington Woods Library, I'd like to read a story by Mary Foreman and Stacey Stucher. The Huntington Woods Library has many excellent events for all ages this February. Preschoolers and their caregivers can enjoy recurring story times, on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. There is also a more robust storytime recurring each Thursday for grades 3 and up called Read Woke, to discuss novels with themes of social justice. Adults get their own book discussion group too, recurring every 4th Monday of each month. Special February programming for children includes a family trivia night, Tooth Time National Dental Month, and Valentine card making. Adults can partake in a ginger snap cookie baking class or hear an author presentation by Marnie Keenan inside the Oakland County Child Killer Investigation. And last, the library also has thoughtful events planned to commemorate and help us take a more active part in Black History Month. There's a Black History Month tribute for children to focus on history, important facts, in ways children can spread awareness and celebrate in their own community. Adults will have the opportunity to attend the first session in a newly reoccurring film series discussion group with Dr. Tara Hayes. This series is being instituted as part of the City of Huntington Woods anti-racism plan. To participate, screen the monthly film in advance of the discussion, then join via Zoom on the discussion date. Register for each month, and a meeting link will be emailed prior to the meeting. Each movie has been paired with a chapter from Dr. Ibram X. Kennedy's best-selling book, How to Be an Anti-Racist. Participants are encouraged to read it in its entirety. And this month's movie chapter to pre-screen is Daughters of the Dust, paired with Chapter 5, Ethnicity. So to sign up for these exciting events, go to the Huntington Woods Library webpage at huntingtonwoodslib, that's lib.org, or give them a buzz at 248-543-9720. And thanks again to Mary and Stacy for preparing that.
Great, cool.
My pleasure.
Next is Commissioner Ray.
Thank the Planning Commission and on January 25th. The Planning Commission reviewed and extended the 5-year master plan. They are updating the projects that were completed over the past 5 years, including the Gainsborough Park renovation, the big room renovation with the patio and park upgrade, as well as the solar energy projects at Fore Ridge, and then also the LED street lighting. Also, the Woodward Sylvan Oakland Park Boulevard intersection project, which is it's near or it is completed. And you know that I just want to give a big shout out to the city staff for those are a lot of big projects that they got done over this past 5 years, and that's pretty cool. They also have a master plan to to include the projects that are underway, like the pavilions, as well as projects slated to start, including the Woodward streetscape. They have also requested that the staff updates the demographic data for the city. The DDA received an overview of the Woodward streetscape plan. It's really exciting, and the discussed timing parts of the project could start as early as 2021, but probably 2022. Is that right, Jim? Yeah. And then one of the things, and I've got to tell Devonshire this, I need to start talking to Devonshire about like work that part of the Woodward streetscape plan sort of is moving the little island at the end of the street. When we lost the big tree, Jim and the designers had a really good new plan to help shift that park a little bit to make it a little more functional, and it will benefit drivers quite a bit turning out onto Woodward. So it'll be good. So their next scheduled meeting is will be April 26th at 7 p.m. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Scott, Historical Commission.
Hi, thanks, Mayor. Just a couple of quick things. We have residents that are living in homes that are over 100 years old, and every year we send out the opportunity, a letter to everyone, just to let them know that they have the opportunity to get a 100-year tile for their house. And so the Historical Commission will be sending out letters to people whose homes will become 100 years in 2021 and 2022. And those letters will be staggered. So you might see the 2021 letters go out a little earlier than the 2022 letters, but those will be going out soon. And then in addition, the Historical Museum, because of COVID, will be open on appointment only. Normally we would open it one Saturday every month, but right now, if people would like to get into the museum, they can contact the city or me, and we'll set up a time for them to come in through one of the members of the Historical Commission. I recommend people, since there are a lot of people doing home improvement projects right now, just grab a couple of pictures, toss them into your file, because invariably someone 50 years from now will want to know what the house looked like now. So it's just good to keep a record of how things change over time, because people find that interesting over time. The other thing I'll cover is that the home and garden tour this year is just a garden tour this year. Getting into people's houses this year is going to be a little tricky, we think. So we're going to be actively looking for people to open up their gardens, their outdoor space. The date will be September 11 this year. It's a kind of an interesting date because it's the 20th anniversary of 9/11. So there was a little concern about the timing, but we think looking at the calendars, we should be clear.
Okay.
And definitely looking forward to people opening up their gardens for the tour. If you'd like to present your garden, if you think you'll have something to show, contact the city or me, and we'll send you out all the information on participating. And that's all I've got.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Next item on the agenda is consideration of the consent agenda. We have 5 basic items, and rather than go into any specifics, I'm just going to ask if there's a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Your Honor, I move the consent agenda be approved.
Second.
Are there any questions or issues? Okay. Amy, can we take a vote, please?
Commissioner Perry,
Yes.
Commissioner Wall,
Yes.
Commissioner Budnick,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Mayor Metzger.
Yes. Motion carries. Next item is the Oakland County Community Development Block Grant Program Year 2021 Community Application and Subsipient Agreement. We are going to have a public hearing, but is there anything, Amy, is this your thing?
Sure.
Okay.
So each year the city qualifies for CDBG funds, that's Community Development Block Grant funding. It's pass-through funding from Oakland County, which originated from HUD. The city's pretty limited on projects that we can offer with this funding. So what we do is program it into senior services, the senior center program. So that's basically Shawnee and Greg putting on the bingo or the field trips or any other workshops that she's doing for residents 62 and over. The city is eligible for $7,000 in funding to do that. And that really, it helps offset the cost of the program, and it's really helped Shawnee kind of boost what she can offer for that demographic. So we're asking that $7,000 be programmed back into the senior services for 2021. The application will be submitted to the county along with the subrecipient agreement saying that we will use these funds in good faith for this project. And we need to hold a public hearing in order to program these funds. So that's what I'm asking for tonight, is the public hearing and then to vote on the programming of that $7,000.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Amy before we open the public hearing? Okay. With that said, and just to say, I think that Shawnee and Greg do wonderful things with that $7,000. So I think it's a great way to spend the money. But with that, we will open the public hearing. Anybody has any comments or questions, let them come forth. All right. I'm going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to ask if there's a motion to approve.
Your Honor, I move the Oakland County Community Development Block Grant Program Year 2021 application, including the programming of $7,000 to the Public Services Senior Services line item, and subrecipient agreement be approved, and that the mayor be authorized to sign the agreement.
Is there support?
Support.
Any further discussion? All right, Amy, can we have a vote, please?
Commissioner Perry,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott,
Yes.
Commissioner Budnick,
Yes.
Commissioner Wall,
Yes.
Mayor Metzger.
Yes, motion carries. Next item is the city manager's report. Jim?
Thank you. So one thing I want to share tonight, and I'm glad that Ann touched on it during her liaison report from the Planning Commission, is I did want to take a minute and run through and show you the current state of the plans for the Woodward streetscape. We are working through the approval process right now with MDOT. And so these are still preliminary, but we have a good basis and they won't be changing too much. Okay, so as we go through the plans, this is for the cycle track. As you may recall, the plan is to build a two-way cycle track along Woodward from Sylvan up Woodward and then up Main Street to 696. And this is one of the design precedents for that, for how that would look. You've got the sidewalk. See if I can grab the right mouse here. I'm on two screens. So you've got the sidewalk, you've got a tree zone, you've got your bike zone, a buffer zone, and then the on-street parking. And that would be the general arrangement of elements. This is obviously in a center city in Europe. So that's, you know, it's a design precedent, but the actual materials, this is one from Missoula, Montana, where it was a retrofit into their streetscape. You can see it's the same basic layout. You've got sidewalk, furnishings and trees, cycle track, buffer zone, parking. So we'll be in between these two in terms of, this is probably closer to the space that we have to work with. This is closer to the vision that we're trying to create with materials. Talking about some amenities and increased amenities at bus stops. One of the things we're looking at incorporating is a leaning rail because we have some tighter spaces at bus stops. So this would supplement benches. It's a way to allow people to take a little bit of a load off while they wait for the bus. The general design concept at intersections is the cycle track is protected from the travel lanes on Woodward by the on-street parking. So then you have the cycle track. And then at intersections, the cycle track bends away from Woodward a little bit to allow for one car to pull through the crosswalk, the combined pedestrian and bicycle crosswalk. The car can pull forward so that that car is not blocking passage of cars and people while they're waiting to turn onto Woodward. And then if there's any other cars, there'll be signage instructing them to stop and wait on this side of the crosswalk until the space is clear. They can pull forward then and complete their turn. So one of the things we run into now is cars waiting to turn onto Woodward are oftentimes blocking the crosswalks as they're waiting to turn. So this helps to address that. We have some furnishings that we're proposing. We've got the leaning rails. We've got benches, which match the ones which we used on the west side of Woodward in the parks. So some upgraded benches and trash cans that match our design palette on the in the parks on the west side of Woodward, bike racks, a bicycle repair station. So just a quick run through of what is and what we are proposing to be. This is the existing condition on Woodward, south of Woodward Heights. You can see Woodward Heights here. So you've got the funeral home and regeneration. Here, the plan is there is no cycle track south of Sylvan. So this is more green in the streetscape. We're also infiltrating a 2-year storm into the ground and keeping that out of the sewer. So we've got a lot of infiltration areas and green plantings, which will take the place currently of what is all pretty much 100% hot hardscape. So this will soften it and improve the look and feel of the streetscape. So the block between Woodward Heights up to Sylvan with the Fairwood parking lot, same thing, mostly green improvements, some additional trees, and also proposing to move the bus stop that is currently in between Sylvan and Maywood to move that bus stop here to the corner at Sylvan, where it makes a little bit more sense. We've got a corresponding bus stop on the other side of Woodward, If you are trying to catch a bus heading north and you're coming across Woodward, it makes sense to have it right at the corner here. You're getting dropped off, heading northbound, and you want to head across Woodward, it's right at the crosswalk. So it makes a little more sense to have that bus stop here. For the segment between Sylvan up to Amherst, including Maywood, this is where the cycle track begins. And you'll see the general layout here. We don't have any on-street parking, so the cycle track runs next to Woodward. It'll be at sidewalk grade, so it's raised up with a curb and a little bit of a buffer zone protecting it from Woodward. This is where those intersections start to bend away from Woodward a little bit. We're a little bit constrained at Maywood. It's not the best example, but as we continue north, same thing through the driveways at Comerica and Whistle Stop. And then again, through the intersection here, this is a little bit more of a standard where you've got enough room for a car to pull forward. So the block from Amherst, Wellesley, Devonshire. Here we have on-street parking now starting to buffer that cycle track from the traffic. It's, we're using those parked cars as a steel wall against the traffic to make cyclists feel comfortable. The cycle track is 8 feet wide plus a little bit of buffer on either side that you can still ride on, but just to provide some visual buffer between the cycleway and everything else going on along Woodward. So it's wide enough for two bicycles to pass each other. Here, this is Devonshire to 10 Mile. So you can see the current condition is, and as Commissioner Perry referenced, the island that's in Devonshire. The proposal is to remove the island and make a bigger park here. This also has the effect of moving and allowing this intersection alignment to pull away from this bend and to bring it to 90 degrees, which is easier for drivers to see. When the intersection comes straight like this, you have to look more than 90 degrees over your shoulder. When the intersection hits Woodward at 90 degrees, you have less turning that you have to do with your head, so it makes it easier to see oncoming traffic. And this also then becomes more usable park space. We still have a tree planted. So one of the things about that old tree that was in that island at Devonshire was it was pretty. It was flowering. It was a terminating vista. So when you were driving down Devonshire, you saw that tree. Well, this tree is actually here that's proposed is in that same spot. Here you can see that's where the existing tree was. And then on the new plans, it's almost in the same spot where we're planting a new tree to provide that same terminating vista down the street that I think we've enjoyed for a long time. This is also where some of the amenities would be, the bike fix-it station and some benches in the park here. And then we continue north along Main Street, and then the cycle track terminates at the intersection here. This is split jurisdiction. Royal Oak starts in the middle of the bridge across 696. So anything to move this forward in the future would have to be in partnership with Royal Oak. We've certainly got room to continue this if we wanted to take one of the lanes along the bridge to turn that into cycle track. It's not a big deal in the future to punch a new curb cut through and just continue that north. But for the time being, it terminates at that crosswalk. Functionally now people ride their bikes on the sidewalk across here all the time anyways. So that's an existing condition that for the short term will continue. So our timeline, possible we could begin construction this year. Ideally, we'll begin construction in spring of 2022 rather than trying to shoehorn this in at the end of a construction season. I think it's better to start in the spring, gives you more time to do things properly without running into time crunches. So that's the update, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that the commission has or any thoughts. One other thing I want to point out is that we may be calling a special meeting of the City Commission on February 23 of this month. We are in the process of working on, and let me go back. We're in the process of working on a TAP grant application cooperatively with the City of Ferndale that would continue the cycle track south of Sylvan and then down into Ferndale all the way to 8 Mile. And so that TAP grant application is not yet complete. One of the things we need is a resolution of support by the City Commission for us to submit that grant. That would also include provision for continuing the two-way bicycle infrastructure on the west side of Woodward. So we've got a fairly easy task there because we've got all the parks to work with. We don't have the on-street parking. So it's pretty straightforward for us. And then we've got these 2.5 blocks south of Sylvan that we would have to put the cycle track on the street. But as you can see, we've mostly designed for that to happen. This is just grass where the cycle track alignment would go. Because north of here, you see what we did is the sorry. Where we already have on-street parking, you can see the parking lane here. The parking lane becomes the cycle track, and then the travel lane becomes the parking lane. So that same concept would occur south of Sylvan. But for us, it's just 2.5 blocks. The main cost and the main driver of this TAP grant is Ferndale, because they're trying to do their entire city now. We're a little bit ahead of the game, having already gotten the grants and doing the design work for everything that's happening north of Sylvan. So stay tuned. Mark your calendars for that special meeting on the 23rd. For the purposes of approving us moving forward and passing a resolution of support for that TAP grant application. And again, of course, we'll have much more information and backup to support that. But again, mostly happening in the city of Ferndale. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions anyone has on anything.
It looks great. It looks great.
It really does.
It's exciting.
It's really exciting.
A quick question on the bike route. Do we discourage biking on like along the triangle towards Woodward? And would it be good to consider widening that section of sidewalk heading towards North Woodward, or I guess it is on Woodward?
Technically, you're really not supposed to ride your bike on a sidewalk. So if we were to do that, and technically you're not supposed to, practically everyone does, because there's really no alternative right now. We understand that.
Mm-hmm.
However, to widen a sidewalk, we run into, that's not really an appropriate official response. So what we would end up doing is having to put a separate bicycle facility next to the existing sidewalk. And I don't know that the counts are there and that the money is there to support that kind of investment, given everything we're doing on the streetscape.
Got it. I'm just thinking west to east or east to west. Which way would people be getting to the bike path that we're creating?
So right now, the marked bicycle route crosses Sylvan and Oakland Park.
Oh, got it.
So that would be where we would suggest that you catch the cycle track if you're going to cross from the east side of Woodward to the west side.
Mm-hmm.
And then other than that, yeah, if you're riding along the service drive, then so be it. People do it now. We wouldn't sanction it, but we understand that it happens.
Got it. Thank you.
Anything else, Jim?
No, that's, I guess I should mention, plan on we'll be publicizing this and probably mailing a letter to every house in the city, but I think we're planning on March 23rd for our public meeting regarding water rates and the upcoming water infrastructure project. And we call it the water infrastructure project because it's become much more than lead service lines. It's basically completely rebuilding our water system. The water mains are put in the ground 100 years ago, and most of them haven't been touched since, and they're past their functional life. And so that's a challenge for us as we look to try to replace lead service lines, and you have to drill into 100-year-old water mains. That's problematic. We also have pressure issues because those water mains over time, they build up a little bit of corrosion on the inside. They're iron, so there's no lead issues with the water mains, but they just don't flow and provide the flow that's required today. So we'll be rolling out all of that entails and all that means. We've worked with the state, and we've got our asset management plan approved, so we're ready to make that official rollout. So plan on that being on March 23rd. We're probably going to have to do it on Zoom. That's a meeting I'd much prefer to do in person, but we will do it on Zoom. And so yeah, everyone should expect to see a letter in the mail from us letting every resident know about that meeting.
Great. Good. Thank you. Any questions for Jim?
Jim, regarding the March 23rd, will there be follow-up meetings also, or are we going to try and do it all in one?
Well, I think right now the plan is to do it all in one. Unfortunately, this is not really an issue that we have a lot of choice around. The state's passed rules that we have to do this. And so, this is not something where we're going to get a lot of input about how we want to do it. This is an engineering problem and a state rules problem. So, we can certainly take comment from people, but functionally, we don't have a lot of flexibility to change things. The state's established a timeline that we have to accomplish this by. They've established rules for what we have to do, and we have to do it. So I don't anticipate there being follow-up meetings, but depending on how it goes on the 23rd, we could hold more.
Great. And we could record it, right? So that if someone misses it. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Yes.
Anything else? Okay. Last item is other business. Anybody with other business?
Mayor, the only thing
Yeah.
I have is Shawnee has been great at helping identify people who have reached out and asked for help with snow removal. And so if anyone does need help, reach out to Shawnee, put it on Facebook, reach out to any of us and let us know. And we will try and get someone to get over there to help you out. And then, the third Tuesday of until April, you can still get salt from the city. If you put a 5-gallon bucket out by 7 a.m., it seriously has to be out there by 7 a.m. or you won't get it. So every third Tuesday of the month until April. That's all I have. Thank you.
And I think that's very important that if there are people who cannot, for whatever reason, get out there and do their snow after we've heard the chief talking about it, it is a public service. It is something that really is disheartening when you walk the streets of Pleasant Ridge and you find you see a nice long stretch of dry, and then all of a sudden you see several houses with snow covered, and there are ways to get that taken care of, or at least to get some help. So please take Commissioner Perry's advice and get in touch with Shawnee, and just, this is kind of like a no excuse absentee ballot. This is kind of the no excuse. I need some help shoveling at least the walkway. I don't know that we're offering driveway service and everything else, but certainly your front walk.
Yeah.
So.
And if anybody knows of anyone also that they know needs some help and they can't always take it on, let us know. And there are a lot of people who, since everybody's working or a lot more people are working at home, a lot of people have been raising their hands.
And if you've noticed neighbors, yes, if you know neighbors that are having difficulty, or you've seen homes that have not been taken care of, you might want to just kind of knock on their door, or give them, maybe not knock on the door, stay 6 feet away, and just see if there's just kind of reminding and see if there's any issues involved. So, okay. If there is nothing else, I'm going to ask, is there a motion to adjourn?
Mayor, I move that we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, kids.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.